Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to begin now. On behalf of the MBA-Ex program at IIM Calcutta, it is my privilege to extend a warm welcome to all of you to the GCC Summit 2025, organized under the Industry Insight series. Let me begin with an introduction of the MBA-Ex program and the Batch 19. Over nearly 2 decades, IIM Calcutta's MBA-Ex program has built a distinguished legacy with more than 1,000 alumni in senior leadership roles across industries worldwide, and a proven record of creating and transforming mid-career professionals into visionary leaders. This intensive one-year residential program has consistently brought together highly distinguished executives from diverse industries, spanning technology, manufacturing, healthcare, financial services, and beyond.
The current cohort, the batch 19 of the program, brings with it an average work experience of 8 years and international exposure of 3 years. The cohort reflects remarkable diversity, including a colonel coming from the infantry, sailors who have voiced across 20 plus countries, entrepreneurs from varied industries, executives from coveted government agencies, as well as accomplished CAs, bankers, and engineers. The Industry Insight Series initiative was incorporated to bridge perspectives from academia to industry. Distinguished and esteemed leaders from diverse sectors are invited for an interactive panel discussion, exchanging their valuable experiences and insights. Last year, the themes included InsurTech and Space Tech, positioning the institute as a front runner in exploring emerging trends in the evolving business context.
Today's panel discussion, the first of its kind, maintaining its legacy in bringing in exclusive themes among any B schools in the country, is dedicated to exploring the evolving landscape of global capability centers. GCCs have experienced rapid evolution from being a cost efficiency hub to becoming strategic powerhouses for innovation, digital transformation, and global value creation.
Today, we are pleased to have a director with us. To set the stage and formally begin with today's proceedings, I now invite Dr. Alok Kumar Rai, Director of IIM Calcutta, to kindly address the audience and share his thoughts.
Thank you very much. Very distinguished panel of experts, our moderators, and the very purpose of this program, the participant and the students of this program of MBA Executive. Now, this GCC, first of all, I must, on behalf of Indian Institute of Management Calcutta and also on my personal behalf, I must welcome the speakers, Shri Arvind Rathore ji, Shri Sandeep Sharma ji, Mr. Jayachandran, Sumreni Lala from Accenture, Rajesh Ray from InnoVerve, and Ashish Banka from Cradlewise, and our very own Dr. Negi, Rohit Negi, and our partners from VC now, Mr. Mehta, and I forgot the other name, Pulak, and the student organizers who have put in a lot of efforts in organizing this. Somehow I missed their last event, Lattice, for obvious official commitments, but I off and on have been interacting with MBA Executive. Interestingly, we both stay together in the same building. So often on, I keep meeting them and interacting with them and trying to get a feel of what is going on in the program as well as in their minds and also in their heart. Because from market share to mind share to heart share has been the theory that had come in marketing, and of course from wallet share also. But for student, it is very important to have an emotional attachment with the institute. Now, for empathy, I did a lot of work on customer loyalty. And my book was the first book published from McGraw-Hill's on customer loyalty. Many of the B schools started this course only because my publisher said that now that we are coming up with a book, many of the B schools have said they'll introduce this course. There, it was said that in loyalty formation, satisfaction is not the key. It is, of course, an important factor, but what is important is the emotional attachment of the receiver. Customer, I'm deliberately refraining from using the term because for students it's unfair to use the term customer. But the emotional attachment of the customer with the service provider is important. And that is why it is important for me to gauge the emotional attachment of the receivers from the provider. So whenever I get an opportunity, I talk to them and I see the kind of zeal and enthusiasm among them for their program. I'm missing your name, Chaitani, very explicitly but very crisply stated the profile of the batch. So at the age of 19, this is your 19th batch. So at the age of 19, the program is also in its youth. So what the reflection of the statistics that was shared by Chaitani clearly specifies the youthfulness of the program. It's a 19-year-old grown up with immense potential being offered to serve the industry, the country, and society. For the comprehensive learning, as you must have been taught in your classes, that learning creates a relatively permanent change in one's behavior that arises out of one's own experience. So this conduct of such programs with such industry luminaries is a reflection that a true learning is being imparted to them, because it is creating a sense of ownership among them, even when the program in charge, chairperson of the program is not available. The program is going on and going on well. So they all deserve kudos. So there are certain other facts that I would certainly like to share, that the Industry Insight series is a curated panel discussion platform that brings together thought leaders, executives, and subject matter experts to explore cutting-edge topics currently shaping the Indian market. Of course, organized by MBA executive students, this series offers deep dives into emerging technologies, industry disruptions, regulatory trends, and strategic challenges, equipping students with real-world perspectives and actionable insights. Over the past years, the series has featured InsurTech, as she was mentioning, that was on exploring how technology is transforming insurance, innovations in AI, risk modeling, claim processing, trust, and the interplay of policy and fintech. Then they had energy tech. Then they had space tech, that was looking at India's growing space ecosystem, governance, regulations, satellite-based solutions, autonomy, market opportunities, and the role of startups and policies. The Industry Insight series, of course, was created precisely for a moment like this to spark dialogue between classrooms and boardrooms, and to ensure that the knowledge we share leads to action. So today's summit on Global Capacity Centers, that is GCC, is yet another attempt to illuminate the opportunities and challenges shaping the evolving world of GCC, a sector that continues to transform how organizations innovate, scale, and deliver value across borders. It is, in fact, a wholly owned offshore unit of a multinational company that delivers core business and technology functions. Initially created as cost-saving back-office hub, GCCs have evolved into strategic centers of excellence, driving product development, digital transformation, analytics, and R&D. India have become the largest global hub for GCCs, with approximately 1,900 centers employing over 2 million professionals. Today, GCCs in India go beyond IT support. They lead innovation in AI/ML, cloud, cybersecurity, finance transformation, and of course, customer experience. With access to a deep talent pool and strong state level incentives, India's GCCs are shifting from cost arbitrage to value creation, directly influencing global strategy and competitiveness. India is rapidly becoming the GCC center of the world, with a projected market size of over $100 billion and nearly 3 million professionals by 2030 are required. Supportive policies, tax incentives, and a focus on FDI having fueled growth. The Indian government permits 100% FDI in GCs across key sectors such as IT, BFSI, and healthcare, enabling a seamless investment landscape. A recent article of Business Today says Bangalore remains on top with GCCs leasing around 24 million square feet of gross office space. According to them, the rapid expansion of GCCs in India offers a potential solution by creating high-skill job opportunities and incentivizing targeted upskilling aligned with industry needs. The Skill Index report further found that graduates from Tier 1 college have the highest employability at 48.4%, followed by Tier 2 city, that is 46.1%, and Tier 3, 43.4% institutions. That, along with cost advantages, is perhaps why GCCs are focusing on Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. This makes GCCs an important lever, not just for white-collar employment, but also for inclusive and geographically balanced economic development. Over the coming sessions, we will explore how bold investments, transformative technologies, and strategic partnership can accelerate diversification and resilience across GCC economies. Our audience today is a vibrant ecosystem, faculty who advance ideas, students who represent the future, and industry leaders who turn vision into reality. Together, I must say that you all form a powerful network capable of driving sustainable growth well beyond these walls. I'm especially pleased to recognize a valued partner, VC Now, whose dedication to nurturing entrepreneurship and venture partnerships to moderate this summit mirrors the spirit of innovation and collaboration. I encourage each one of you to engage fully, ask questions, hard questions, meaningful questions, share your insights, and build relationships that endure long after the final panel closes. I'll share an experience that I had yesterday. Yesterday was alumni IMC Alumni Association Calcutta chapter meeting, and there they felicitated the co-founder of Swiggy, Sri Harsha. Sri Harsha Majeti was a pass out of 2010 batch. And what he said, and that is of significance to all of you, is that after starting this up, when he thought that this idea will work and he wanted to expand, he called one of his batchmates and said, "This is what I'm planning, this is what I'm working on, I want you to join." He said, and this is what his word yesterday is, अबे यही तो प्रोजेक्ट था जो हम लोगों ने किया था अपने उसके दौरान, during masters. So this is the kind of ecosystem that this institution offers. So a project that they did during 2009 and 10, when was converted into reality in 2015 and 16, is a, I mean, extremely profitable brand and a corporate which is employing several IIM Calcutta alumni as well. So such occasions are to be treated as a ground for germination of ideas, for clarification of confusions, and for maturing the implementation of all these. Again, I've got all the words of appreciation for the organizers, especially our student organizers, who have taken all the pain of doing it, and they keep on doing this. And my request to all of you is that keep on doing further. I'm also thankful to all our panel experts, moderators, and everyone who's supporting the cause. Thank you very much for providing me the opportunity to be part of it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful words. We indeed missed you at the lattice event. We would now like to present a small token of appreciation from our batch 19. I request Raja and Amit to please present the student admission brochure.
So,
Sir,
we now request you to
yeah.
we now request you to present the welcome token to the speakers as we introduce them alphabetically. Mr. Arvind Rathore, GCC Customer Success Partner at ANSR. Arvind sir, please take a seat. Mr. Ashish Banka, Head of Human Capital and Talent Strategy at Cradlewise.
Mr. Jayachandran K, Business Solutions International, PMO Director at Novartis. Mr. Rajesh Ray, Senior Managing Director at Innoverve.
So please be seated. Yeah.
Sir, Rajesh sir, please take a seat.
Mr. Sandeep Sharma, Founder and CEO of Summit Consulting Services, an ANSR company. Ms. Sumreni Lala, Managing Director at Accenture Technology Strategy and Advisory.
We are equally honored to have our moderators for today's discussion. Let me call upon Mr. Darius Mehta, who is the Founder Director at Unified Collaboration Services, LLP, VC Now. We are also being joined by our own faculty, Professor Rohit Negi, Associate Professor of Public Policy and Management at IIM Calcutta.
Thank you so much to our beloved director. May you please say it. Yeah. With the stage now set, I would like to invite our moderators to lead the panel discussion. Over to you, Darius sir and Professor Negi.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and good morning to you all on this nice, lovely Sunday afternoon. I hope that we have an enriching discussion. Would you like to introduce the panelists, or I think we've already done that?
I think we already have introduced. So thanks, but I would just once again repeat what Professor Rai had said, which is to thank the organizers, all the students for joining us today. I think we can sort of dive right in because we will go into so many directions and there's a lot of ground to cover.
Sure.
So one thing perhaps I can open with the flow with is to just ask our participants today, our panelists, to just speak from their own vantage point, the sector they're in, the industry they're in, their own story of experiencing this space over the last decade or more. And just talk about how we go from outsourcing, offshoring captives to where we are today in terms of innovation. So perhaps we can maybe start from there and then go across, because this is open to all the panelists, this question.
Thank you for the question, and thank you everyone for spending a Sunday afternoon with us. So I think your question was some of the things we've seen that's made this whole sector evolve in the last few years. We were discussing a little bit earlier that I have a visceral reaction to the word offshoring, back office, and things like that. And I think the reason that this industry has evolved, or the space has evolved, is because everyone collectively is having a visceral reaction to us being called an offshoring center, back office center, things like that, right? The market in India has evolved so much. The expectation of people coming into the workforce has evolved so much. The ability to deliver value-added work to global companies is very much sitting here at the Talent Center in India, which I think is one of the biggest reasons that the sector is evolving the way it is. We were also talking about how in cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, you throw a coin, you're hitting global capability centers all around you, and there's one, you cross the road and you kind of can join the next one, right? So there's this talent war, which is a word we hear a lot, but it's true. So how are you attracting, retaining, mentoring, growing talent? And what is it that's actually helping you attract that talent is the type of work that people have access to in global companies. So a lot of global multinationals are realizing that it's not so much cost savings is there for sure. That's typically how this conversation starts. It's based on a business case that someone like my team would create, where we say, let's figure out how to diversify your talent pool and move people to a lower cost country, right? But the business case is only real when you're able to attract talent for capabilities that matter to your business, and retain that talent in a way that grows and adds value to your business, right? So we have a sort of framework that we use every time we start this conversation with clients, which is an evolution, like imagine a graph going this way, which says doer, thinker, influencer, reinventor. And that's the path we have seen GCCs take over the last 10 years or so, right? And in most of our conversations with the client, we say, if you're at doer, you're missing the bus. A lot of the companies who came in many years ago are at doer still, right? So the ones that we are talking to now, we're saying, at the very least, start at influencer, bring in leadership roles, make sure your roles are the same across countries. Doesn't matter whether you're in the US, UK, Europe, India, a lead is a lead, a product owner is a product owner, your KPIs need to be that way, etc., etc. So I think there's a push and pull from all sides that's driving this evolution, which is the understanding of the value we can add as a talent market, as well as an understanding from global sponsors on what it takes to actually build a successful entity in India. So it was a long answer, but hopefully it brought some insight.
No, I think the question about the cost and more, I think we'll keep coming back to later also, but it's an important point.
Thanks, Samrini. If you look at the industry per se, it started in the 90s. I think Texas Instrument was one of the first GCCs which was set up, but it never got its due because outsourcing was prominent with the likes of Infosys, TCS, Y2K, and the growth predominantly you see was financial services. You have large centers like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and then there is this in the last 3-4 years, you've seen that euphoria about global capability centers because there is 2,000 of them today, contributing to almost 1.5% of India's GDP, employing more than 2 million. And I've seen this on both sides. Fortunate that the last 17, 18 years I've seen GCCs. I was part of IBM's captive story. It was called Captives then. And then with NatWest, Royal Bank of Scotland, and then now I'm actually a consulting and a provider. I help companies to scale, set up, and transform GCCs. I think that whole model of throwing jobs offshore to now this becoming a core to the headquarter has been the journey of a GCC. From a cost center to a profit center mindset. I won't say profit center still. I think has been an evolution of global capability centers. And I feel that the GCCs of the future will be, it's not a GCC. And we've started to actually tell everybody saying that please don't call this as a global capability center. It's your office. Why is it any different from Virginia to Bangalore? And you see that mindset shift happening today with the global capability centers. I think outsourcing and offshoring will coexist happily. I think organizations will evolve to see where you need to offshore, where you need to outsource. But I feel that GCCs are here to stay. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of buzzword about GCC. Thanks.
Thank you. I think both of you had already added many pertinent points. So my personal experience with GCC, like my colleague just told, is that when I started working in 2008, and that time we are doing more from an, you can tell from a package perspective, from SAP and some of the leading packages like SuccessFactors, like what offerings GCCs can have. So I just give it one example. A large consumer goods company, don't want to name them, but they're based at Bangalore, and they're set up huge GCC at Shantiniketan building in Bangalore. So when I'd seen that first, it was around 2005-06. From the GCCs when they started, it was like, password reset, giving access to system, setting up mail ID. That's the kind of work they should tell 2008 to 10. That used to happen mostly low cost. The driver was mostly how much you can automate, and we are talking about a lot of, to the extent the process is same across all geos, process harmonization, etc. But very low end work when it was cost was the main driver, I think. Over the time, as I was, between say 2010 and 15, when they started working, they found they started with developments, to do a product development and tried to specialize in certain, what they used to call a center of excellence, like, supply chain center of excellence. So supply chain related all product they will do. And they typically started taking up a part of a process. Like they started with, I remember, as an accounts receivable as a process. Essentially scanning invoices, getting all the bills and trying to make the payment on time. But at least a part of the process they were trying to address. Then when it moved to the next stage, it was, I think, between 2015 and 18. That time they started really doing a package implementation. I just telling in this case, this was an SAP warehouse management package, and there's the first time they started the implementation of that package from that center. So they told, okay, for the APAC region, we will do the implementation from this package from this center. And once we have some kind of global template built up, we'll try to roll out. So that started playing a big role because the drivers were very different. Because before this, there was never a business driver, but this time the business driver is, okay, this package implementation, that warehouse productivity increase, whatever will happen. But to the extent we can do the warehouse automation, some of those KPIs were linked to these GCC teams, which was never there earlier. So I think that's the way the transition had happened. I had seen, and increasingly that same company, when when we started doing some point solutions for them after COVID 2021. One of the other things which I also wanted to say is that as Bangalore is going very fast, I think every one of us told us in India there are tier 2 cities, but also large global companies are now looking at GCCs outside India as well. Like Dalian, if you go in China, it's just like Bangalore. Almost in every, I had traveled there 2-3 times, and there is almost in every street there is a global centers now. So because new generation Chinese, they speak English well. There is a cost advantage, and there is tremendous support from government. I mean, that goes much beyond. I mean, I will tell Karnataka is the most, you can tell, friendly in terms of setting up GCC, but Dalian centers go much beyond that. You can actually set up a GCC, and you can start operating it and transfer the ownership to the owner. I mean, if the parent company wants to own the ownership, everything in a month of 90 days. That's when they can work with that speed. And the second thing also, what I'd seen is that the same way in the Europe, if you see in the Poland, the Krakow is becoming a big center. There are lots of GCCs coming, and there are for multiple reasons. One is that many cases, some companies are scared now that the data moving out of Europe. So as soon as you start setting that up and you start giving very critical role to GCCs, that also become a determined factor, which was not a big concern, I should tell, before 2015. So that's also something driving GCCs. So if you look at those kind of things in future, as these large companies starts evaluating GCCs, while they will do definitely Bangalore and Indian centers, because after the next to the Bangalore probably it is Hyderabad and Pune in India still now. But there are these centers which are also becoming important, especially I will tell Dalian, Krakow, these centers. And tomorrow, we don't know what Donald Trump will do if they start putting some taxes on the US companies, whatever they're outsourcing. At least the GCCs which work purely an outsourcing model, and still there are GCCs, which still do. I mean, most of the GCCs do high end and low end work both, and I see that also as a challenge. Probably had come at some point that people will be thinking about moving the things from outside if there are tomorrow some extra tax burden come to them on. Thanks.
Thanks, Rajesh. And I think word GCC, I think for the next 90 minutes, right, you will keep hearing the word, but the word has many different meanings over the last few years. For me, I would probably color it with even the way things have changed on a physical landscape perspective, right? I was a COVID hire into Novartis, and when I joined the company, basically you had very little real estate infrastructure in and around the company. And now, if you actually ask me, there are at least 6 to 7 different pharma GCCs that have actually sprung up. So I think there is a lot of interest in the space for a very simple reason that we are actually producing the largest pool of talent around pharma. The STEM graduates around a couple of million at least every year who graduate from colleges, and even if you take medical doctors, I think around 1 lakh or so they actually graduate every year. Now this is a very dense talent pool that is actually available for this particular industry, and therefore the industry itself you see it's thriving. The second aspect, I think over the years, at least the last 10 to 15 years, the very simple shift that we saw is the cost arbitrage that comes from looking at a process. How do I break it open and then see what is that part that can be, shifted to a low cost center, to really looking at the capability. Then the next phase was only looking at the capability. And now if you look at pharma, right, given that there is a dense talent pool that is available, you can actually look at something like regulatory, clinical, pharmacovigilance, things which are very, very pertinent, not just from a commercial and a process that any graduate can actually come and operate, but also very close to drug development. I mean, a recent report you can easily read, which is available, says that at least most of these pharma GCCs have penetrated through at least the 45% of the work content in these GCCs with respect to the development side of pharma. So we're just not doing some of those, what I think Rajesh was mentioning about it, like a job which can be, which somebody raises a ticket and it gets actually delivered out of an offshore center, but you're actually delivering something which is impactful. So slowly we have moved from cost to delivering an impact and value is very contextual. You ask me, I would have 10 different ways to determine value where I am sitting. If I'm in supply chain, probably it is time to market. If it is customer experience, it is probably in terms of how I'm engaging the customer and trying to understand what's actually happening. So with all that, I think it's a very, very interesting space. And given that there is a lot of things, including Trump or the AI ML thing, there's a lot more interest, and this space is going to change. So,
all right. Thank you. So first up, and it's really exciting to be here and talking to the people who will be part of possibly this industry, and not only be part of this industry, but be possibly leading a lot of these centers in the future, right? So just to give you a little glimpse about my career journey, and to a large extent, it overlaps with this whole evolution that we have seen of the outsourcing industry to offshoring to now GCC, right? So back in the 90s, when I joined, there was a lot of discussion about when the internet coming in, and there was a strong discussion about, can knowledge work be done from India, 1,000 miles away, for a company that is in the US or the UK, right? And we all answered that with a very emphatic yes. And that what led us to where we are with the whole evolution and the growth of the IT service industry, and that I was part of then. And then, of course, now we're talking about GCCs and the whole journey from essentially starting from being in back office to now what we call as the backbone of the parent industry or parent company. And I've seen that materialize through the roles that I've done for large GCC in bank and oil and energy companies, and now with the market leader that sets up a lot of these GCCs here in India, right? So now the situation that we are in, GCC, like Director Sir was talking about, is 2% of our GDP contributed by the GCCs, doing direct employment of 2 million people, and indirectly even more. And now, we are in a place where India is the GCC capital of the world, and for the right reasons. And we'll talk about, how the evolution in detail happened and where are we going from here. But yeah, immensely, immense potential in this industry on how we make an impact to the talent here, to the economy for sure, and then what have we to contribute more. And then, like I said, my whole career journey overlaps with this evolution, and we'll talk about more about that.
Namaste, Sabiko. Adab Sasyakal. So, it's very odd man out because I am from the people function and I'm sitting with business leaders and eminent business leaders who are driving numbers. But I'll talk something which is synonymous to us, not in terms of age, but at least in terms of wavelength. So, I am a local lad, but I left Calcutta in 2013. I'm one of you. I did my executive MBA from IIM Ghaziabad. And this journey of entire which you are in the piece, when we talk about where do we stand, while we were having a small hurdle, and specifically the word used frozen, I really liked it. This is the time where we realized that I was a government servant with Indian Railways, and I realized that I have to quit and I have to come into corporate, and the only way was this setting stone for us, right? Before I start and I go further, I would request all of us to give a round of applause for our parents, for which we are here. So, specifically when we come up here, and I was talking to a few students yesterday, I'm talking here for the 70%. और 70% क्यों है वो मैं रीजन बता देता हूँ, नो ऑफेंस टू एनीबॉडी. 10% वो है जिनका ऑलरेडी सेट है, जो टेक्निकली स्किल्ड है. 20% वो है जिनके पास रिसोर्सेस है, रेफरेंसेस. 70% वो लोग हैं जो यहाँ पे आके अपना करियर बनाना चाहते हैं. They want to navigate it to the success in whatever parlance you have with the navigation. और बहुत ज्यादा टैलेंटेड नहीं है इसलिए यहाँ पे. Right. Let us address the first thing we should start in our career is what is our competency, what is the skills, and what are our capabilities. As business leaders, they have identified and they have built business. What we can do is identify our career as well, right? इसी के लिए 4 लाइनें बोल देता हूँ आप लोगों के लिए. तो बहुत ज्यादा संडे में इतना दूर आके थोड़ा फन नहीं हुआ तो फिर क्या मजा हुआ, राइट? तो 4 लाइनें अर्ज किया है. वाह बाद में बोलते हैं पहले. सो जो बीत गया दौर वो फिर ना आएगा, जो बीत गया दौर वो फिर ना आएगा, अब तेरे सिवा इस दिल में कोई ना समाएगा. घर फूंक दिया हमने अब तो बस राख उठानी है, घर फूंक दिया हमने अब तो बस राख उठानी है, जिंदगी कुछ और नहीं बस तेरी मेरी कहानी है. So, I did my PGDM and then I realized क्या करें, So I got my first break with Tata's in Calcutta. And then I moved out with Qatar Airways, all startups, and then Reliance, and then Delivery and Compass, and now with Cradlewise. All these years in last 12, 13 or 14 years of my career, except the government servants, I have worked in startups. The last startups, this is current one, is a startup with its, doing a very specialized product of AI-enabled baby crib. And while building the teams, I've realized, and I was speaking to, Ratha sir a little while back, that what is the success mantra if you ask for us when you go back? We also come and we give our kind of thought process during the interview or build career. I think most importantly, GCC or non-GCC, most important thing are 3. Which is the first is passion, what you want to do in your life. This is the time where you can build your careers, aligning your passion to the opportunity, because you can choose. Once we have chosen you, we will not allow you to choose. The second is your perseverance, is your commitment, because you know your capabilities and skills. You're not like 2 years one who are still navigating and sailing where we will go. You know where you have to go. And third most important is humility. If you can't be a good human being, end of the day, there's no point to become a good professional. COVID has taught that. And when I build my teams for GCC specifically, which I'm a newbie and I've come here to learn from the best, is when we go back and my attrition, so my numbers are 3. One is cost per hire, attrition, and attendance. And then the performance comes eventually, right? If performance is not there, pin slips are there, PIP is there. So when we build up, we coach leaders that can you train performance out of them? Today, you are a star performer. You can become a low performer anytime because you have financial, you can have emotional reasons, you have health reasons. Most importantly, I urge all of you to please do soul searching and realize what you want to do, because you are the ones who will navigate this entire business as we go forward. I will stop here and thank you.
Okay, sure. So I think we'll dive right in, and since this is an industry insights session where I think you are the audience, and it's for you, and like what Ashish said, what's in it for you, right? You could, while there will be a Q&A session, but if you feel that there are questions, feel free to kind of butt in so that we can make it more interactive also. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name's Arun. I've been working at several GCCs for the last 15 odd years. I've worked with Microsoft and Cisco and so on and so forth. One question particularly to Ms. Lala and Mr. Sharma, definitely for the whole panel to think about, is you mentioned about the evolution from doing, thinking, so on, right? I'll state the question and then add some color to it. The question is, how does the head office get over the mental roadblock that India, I'm not talking about the India office, India is not a core revenue market for them. And now let me add the color. So the decision-making seat, so say it's Microsoft or it's Oracle or Amazon, if they're going to come up with a new product, if they're going to come up with a new offering, the India office typically doesn't have a say in that. It's not because of lack of skills or capability of the individuals. It's more, compare that to the offices, say Amazon has a Luxembourg office. It has something in the UK, it has something in Australia and Southeast Asia. They make decisions for their own products and the revenue, even for the US. How do you get the India office to do that, especially in sectors like banking and healthcare, where India's ecosystem is actually far ahead of the rest of the world? Healthcare in the US is broken, healthcare in the UK is broken, banking everywhere is broken. Why can't India be the banking or healthcare thought leader for Wells Fargo, for example, or for say Optum, which is into insurance, right? Why is it that? Is it just because India is not viewed by the head office as a center of revenue by itself? Question for you.
That's a wonderful start, and I think this is something that we discussed before we came in. So I think
hard question, which is what I was instructed
I
to
think
ask.
Very relevant question. I think, and this is what I think industry leaders themselves are thinking about. That when is it that we turn the table from the head of GCC is being called as a site lead to kind of being a voice on the table. This is something we discussed. I think leave it to them to share.
I think, what's your name?
My name is Arun. I'm a 2013 alum of the school, and now I'm a visiting professor here. Actually, invited here. Bye.
So, I
had to leave for a meeting at 12:30, which is why I interrupted while the discussion was still going on.
On a lighter note, Arun, you're hired.
I think the today, if you look at it, the cost center to profit center journey has been interesting, and honestly, in the past, India lacked the leadership as well. But today, if you look at it, you have leaders who are leading GBS globally, which means that they're not just leading India, but they're leading Philippines, Vietnam. Today, you have a Navneet Kapoor, who's actually the CIO, global CIO, sitting here in India. We have an Ashish who's leading Falabella from India. The CIO sits out of India because 60-70% of the workforce sits out of India. It's previously we used to talk about the seat at the table. Now we speak about the voice on the table. And I think regardless of whether India is a potential market where you can actually generate revenue as well, probably the product companies are different. ServiceNow, Microsoft, Salesforce, they do have a large presence. But if you look at banks per se, some of them have come and gone. ANZ Bank stopped its operations. Royal Bank of Scotland stopped its operation. But from a GCC perspective, it's been a tremendous shift. And I'll give you my own example of RBS, and then Sumreni can probably add. We went bust in 2008. We moved a lot of jobs. Our CIO was called Mike Errington. He was called Offshore Errington. We just did a lifted shift. We never transformed. 2010 and I think 2018, the bank went green again in India. And the reason being that we globally aligned everybody to the same cause. India was never just a center, whether it was the spans, the layers, the the leadership. There was never like India leader will always report to the US or to the UK. We had teams or managers who had their teams in Edinburgh and London as well. And I think that shift has enabled India to be a good ecosystem. Now I'll come to you. The second part is, I feel, is India there from a market perspective for all the GCCs? You will see that happening. You will see a lot of products. Like say, for example, we're doing about, I run private equity practice for Summit. So we deal with the Blackstones, the Warburg Pincus, and the others of the world. Most of these companies today, like there's a NAS company which we just launched. The CEO was here. This was the first visit for the entire tech team. When they came, they saw, we took them to T-Hub, which is the world's largest innovation campus. Their eyes were blown. They've not seen India. You know, a lot of these guys are first-time visitors. So I think the evolution has begun for a cost center to a profit center mindset. And I'm sure in the coming years, they will see India as a potential consumer of these products as well. Is it there now? No, but potentially yes.
Is that it may not, so as you mentioned English fluency, gentleman here mentioned English fluency of Dalian in China. We have all of the skills, all the veneer that is required by this leadership in India. Possibly it's a lack of tribal knowledge about each culture. So what do I mean by that? If you are building a product for India, which is why, say, McDonald's and KFC and things couldn't crack the vada pav market, the equivalent of that, right? There is a culture which, even if there are folks from abroad sitting here, they're unable to crack it. I suspect from my own experience, the companies in the US or in Europe which set up GCCs here struggle with Indians figuring out how the market in the West will work, and hence not being able to develop those kind of products. That's the mentality that the leadership has, is my take. I'd like to hear your thoughts, man.
Yeah, no, I think your question is, it hits very close to home because it's literally the core of what I get paid to do. And I think Sandeep mentioned some really, important points that are absolutely spot on, right? There is a two-way education that needs to happen in this entire ecosystem, both from the people who are leaders in GCCs, people who are building leaders in GCCs, as well as very much in the leadership of the organizations that are exploring this area. So I've worked with, in the last 2 years itself, I've worked with about 15 CXOs across industries who have come to us saying, I need, currently just this week, I need 300 people in India by December. It is September 14th. Yeah. I need 300 people in India by December. 300 people to do what? Right? 300, like, do you want to check off an Excel sheet where you say, I want 300 people and hey, I'm CIO -1 in Seattle, and I managed to hire 300 people in India by, killing my consultants that I'm paying a lot? Or are we sitting down and saying, I want 300 people, but for what capability? What am I trying to build? What does this 300, and by the way, the 300 people till December is one KPI that they've put on themselves. 3,000 by end of 2026. To do what? Right? To do what? So if you sit down and you sit with the CIO -1, they have an agenda to prove that they can do something because they want to become CIO, right? So to your first point, which is, how do you manage the teams globally to understand what value they're getting out of this team they're setting up thousands of miles away, is by helping them understand that yes, your 300 will help you for some time, but what happens when that 300 starts to, you start to see attrition within the first 2 months, which has happened, real life example with a pharmaceutical company. because what you did was you hired people with 2-3 years of experience, did not give them any visibility to what's going on universally in your organization. They have no clue who they report to, because you have so many multiple dotted lines because someone in Europe felt that their organization was being taken away from them, right? So it's how do you elevate the conversation in the headquarter to say you're setting up a 3,000 person team elsewhere. And I'll digress a little bit because this one still blows my mind. I've worked with a global American consumer goods company. I was presenting to their entire CXO leadership team sitting in India remotely. So there was the CIO, CHRO, CMO, CFO, COO, C add whatever you want to it, right? And we are talking about something. And I had been working with the India technology lead who had set up a fantastic organization, but was given maybe 3 or 4 roles below the CIO globally. And when we were talking about it together, this entire CXO team, and by the way, in India, they had close to 2,500 people already. The entire CXO team said, I wish we knew this team existed, right? There's that much of a break. And the issue is, one, what you said, that globally they feel they have a number, they have a cost savings target, and they've got someone who's saying, I need to build this massive team and I want this. And that those are, first of all, the biggest red flag KPIs that leadership globally needs to see. Second, the teams in India need to get that voice, right? They need to put their hands up and say, hey, we can own this. But the one thing that we are doing right now, and okay, let me take a step back, because I think the other issue that was happening was a lot of global companies, because this was so cost led, were not investing money and time in thinking about these sorts of things. That has changed because a lot of what's happening is the attrition and the lack of lack of availability of talent, right? They want to hire AI people. How are you going to get AI people from Netflix if you're like not giving them a actual good work to do, right? So they have understood that they need to spend time thinking about long term, how do I build an organization, right? So that has opened up the door to allow partners to come in and have these conversations. So influence is happening. The influence on us being able to say, hey, stop hiring people with 5 years of experience only and build out your pyramids. And I think that's what Sandeep said as well, right? Build out your pyramids. Lots of times they come up to us and say, your product owner, how can they build a product when they don't sit in the US? How will they talk to business? We have a pharmaceutical company sitting out of an Accenture facility where they have I think 50% of the workforce is product owners in India. It's a what we call a build, operate, transfer model. So we hired, nurtured them, and now they are moving over to the actual pharmaceutical company. Each product owner works with the research scientists at MIT and wherever, one on one, to actually build out product. So but that came only because we sat down with the CIO and we said, hey, the person you're hiring in India needs to report to you. If they don't report to you, how are you going to get visibility to what these people you're building? How do you know what they're doing? So the whole conversation is to elevate the role out of site lead, administrative, operations, capacity to capability, to voice on the table, to say that product owner, why can't it be done from India? Why are you treating a product owner in the US differently from India? Why are we putting in KPIs that say customer satisfaction score, where the customer is your US entity? All this has to go, right? And that's kind of the education we are trying to bring in. I sound very passionate about this because, like I said, it's another thing that brings out a visceral reaction in me. But that's a really great question, and I think it's important for us to.
And this is for all of you as well, right? We're setting up a GCC in Gurgaon called Alchemy. It's a NASDAQ listed fintech company which works with cooperative. So it's almost like your AU bank, cooperative banks. They work on a digital platform for these community banks. Deep is actually the CTO, and he's from IIT Delhi. And whilst he was outsourcing and now he's offshoring, interestingly enough, the entire treasury management platform, he wanted to get it developed out of India from scratch. And we hired the guys from Paytm and Razorpay. Why? Because he educated the CEO and others saying that India doesn't have legacy. India can give you scale and speed, which means that to a large extent that reverse is happening today, because it's just not about developing a particular product and delivering it over the fence. I feel that you will see more of these examples coming up for people to kind of say that, can I do a cashless retail stores team sitting out of India? Probably yes, or probably Lowe's is doing it. But I think the it's slow, but I think it's picking up.
Just wanted to add a couple of things, right? And maybe flipping it as somebody sitting inside and looking at it more from our own mindset of how we are given a mandate. So, if you are a leader here and you're suddenly asked that, can you onboard another 300 people, who would say no, right? Because your span is becoming bigger and you're probably thinking that, it is your growth path to your next big thing. Okay. And that's where I feel that a lot of us are not looking at that initial design part that is very crucial for us to think about, is it going to be fit for purpose? Is it going to add value from a long-term perspective? That's point number one. Point number two is more about the mindset of even from a delivery perspective. Your director spoke about customer loyalty. And basically it is not just that smiley and your NPS score that matters, right? If I hold myself accountable only to the SLA that I've signed and leave things on the table, how am I creating my impact? I don't look at it, if I start looking at it differently and then start looking at, okay, what should I do so that my end, when I say patient as a pharma company is benefiting, that's when I start to create impact. And for that, what you said in terms of my tribal knowledge on the market is very crucial. Because if I don't understand the patient in, say, the US or the China or the Japan, it's not something that I can deliver. Now, can I deliver out of here? Answer is not a simple answer, right? As leaders, we might have to start thinking about, okay, is there a possibility of a talent rotation? Can I start getting some sort of, insight into those markets here? And how do I do that? And that's where the sponsorship in terms of getting people plugged in and being there in the discussion table is important.
Arvind, you want to share something? I think you.
Oh yeah, I mean, all of you, hit the nail on the head in terms of having the right reporting structure for the person who's making the decision. Arun, to your point, that comes with not only getting that privilege, but earning that privilege to lead the team and therefore having the discussions with the required sponsors there. But however trivial it may sound, if you think that we know US, we know France, and the other way around is also true. I mean, I can't emphasize and underscore the point that we do not on either side, right? And therefore, it's important for us to educate on what's it for the leaders there to hire in India and operate in India, and the other way as well, right? I'll give you an example of, I lived in the US for a very long time and came back and joined a French bank, right? And I thought, Western civilization, both same, can be worked out. I mean, I had a hard time, working through the French culture versus the US, right? So eventually figured it out. But if we can make that as a part of program within the GCCs, that how important is it to understand the nuances and the subtle differences between different cultures? And I've seen, one of these startup, one of the GCCs I know works with Swedish company, and then the Swedish company has written a full playbook on how is it about working with the Indians and the other way around, right? So however trivial it may sound, that's how you earn your seat there, right? And but one last point, apart from what's been talked about, I think as we enter the era of AI, right? I think things are going to level out sooner than probably we expect, because a lot of things that are happening in the headquarters, can be done here, and it provides you a really good level playing field to the new products that we're going to develop in in LATAM or US or India. I think everybody is starting from more or less the same space, and the space is evolving so quickly that I think that provides a really good level playing field for us to raise our hand up and say that we can do as well as you can.
Thank you, Arvind. Sorry. So I think what you mentioned about culture, and incidentally, the chairperson of this program, Professor Pragyan Rat. I don't know if you can correct me. I think she's here. I mean, do you do the course for culture? Not yet done. So I think there's a need to do that, and I think they have a wonderful program in cross-cultural, communication, and how communication can help people. I mean, who are stepping into these kind of profiles. I think this is going to be extremely important. And I can tell you, I mean, I've been a student in a class or the program, and you must do that. So I think I'll add fuel to fire from what Arun mentioned, actually. And I'll make it a little more, controversial as well as contradictory. Like, while we are talking about and the euphoria of GCC, while she doesn't like the word, but at the same time, in the room, we also discussed about some jobs going away, right? And I think getting used to facts that life cycle as we normally learned, product life cycles of industry life cycles as we normally learned, and not the way that we have seen them in paper. And maybe disruption is the need of the hour or hour of the day, and is something, the reality that we are kind of living with. And I was surprised to hear from them that there is kind of disruption happening with AI coming in, etc. And GCCs are somewhere actually going through churn and firing people, etc. So I think I want you to address that how is it kind of going to be with kind of what is the new skill sets that will be required, what is going to kind of become redundant, etc. I mean, for them to know, so that they can leverage it in the right manner.
Right. So if I start, a good framework that at least I follow, GCCs or otherwise, in terms of role elimination versus role evolution, right? So some roles are going to morph into something different, whereas there are other roles that are going to be not seen, right? Completely eliminated, right? And a good, if you were to create a small, quick framework 2 by 2, the roles that AI complements you on, and there are roles that AI has an exposure to, right? And then if you're sort of high on both, then you're likely, the role is going to evolve. But having said that, on that matrix, the issue is that let's take an example of a software engineer, right? I would put that, or a neurosurgeon, right? These are roles that you would say AI complements, but at the same time, there's exposure. So these are the roles that AI will aid, right? Now, having said that, like I said, the role that is close to my heart and we deal with every day is the role of a software engineer, for that matter, right? Now, at the moment, we're talking about a co-pilot or AI aiding that role, and therefore the role morphing and evolving. I don't know what's going to look like 2-3 years from down the line, right? Our software engineer at risk. So right now, what's a human plus AI role? It could be only AI, right? And that's vastly happening in the coding world. And who would have imagined the role of a vibe coder? You're giving commands, and that you got the whole web page written for you. Then likewise, right? So it's still, at an enterprise level, it's still evolving. But those are the roles that we never thought, right? It was always about roles that were repetitive in nature, data entry, Excel sheets, right? And throughout the history of automation, those are the roles that really, get eliminated quickly. But we're now talking about cognitive roles, right? Where you not require only data entry, but cognitive roles where you require knowledge work at risk as well, right? So I'll start with that, but I'll hear more, and then we'll add more to that.
I think Sandeep, you'd mentioned while we were there.
Yeah. So I think there is GCCs of the future, the way we see it, and in a couple of examples happening today with us is previously we used to do a lift transform shift or lift shift transform. What will happen increasingly is that we'll do the transform, which means that, and then do a lift shift. What does that mean? That means that if I'm setting up a new GCC, if there are 100 roles, probably we're talking about 70 and 30 are eliminated to have 10 agents. And that majority of agents is going to increase over a period of time. Is that doomsday for India or doomsday for the world? It's not. Why? Because I think whilst the roles evolve, I feel that it's not existential because you still have to have data in one place, and which has always been a challenge for AI and acceptability and adaptability. And please imagine that most of these GCCs out of 2000, they're all enterprise clients with monolithic systems. It's tough to make them move as quickly as AI is moving. So the AI penetration is more around developer efficiency, process improvement. Instead of RPA, you're looking at AI, or you're looking at some of your fundamentals of businesses changing. So what does it mean to you? You're PGPX. You're not starting off. You're actually having experience with 8 to 10 years of. You're actually going to get into the middle of this, and I feel that there are two skills which are supremely important in this world. I'm not going to speak about, oh, you need to learn about Claude and Perplexity. I think the biggest thing as a leader you can develop is curiosity. We did a survey with Aon called Digital Readiness for our middle management specifically. And there were three things which came very supremely on top. First was curiosity. We've forgotten to ask this question, why? The second is learn to learn, learnability. The pace at which things are moving, you need to reinvent today. I might have reinvented myself some 4 or 5 times in my career, but you have to reinvent yourself every week, or if not every day. And the third is agility. You have to run fast. It's maniacal in terms of the way the speed. And so I feel that if you want to develop something, I think these are the three core skills: read, absorb, adopt. If you can use Claude and Perplexity for yourself till that point of time that you become native, that it is AI first, you'll not be able to. And I'm telling you, you'll be lagging behind, specifically you as future leaders of this country.
Absolutely. I think those are really important points. And I think the other thing, is as the world of capability centers evolve into more capability led, which is, basically what's happening now and what we are driving to. It comes back to that, if you've set up your center correctly as an extension of your organization, then it's showing you, you're able to kind of consolidate and get a very centralized view of what's happening across the company. That's one. Secondly, you're also able to, if you're upskilling and you're hiring the right talent and you're encouraging the curiosity and flexibility, agility, and all those things, you're also enabling your center to drive change into the business, right? So a lot of that low baggage and all those sorts of things which exist in a new capability center will be able to reverse engineer the change in this AI situation. So a lot of the conversations we've been having with our clients, both globally as well as in India, is what's the, less so about how do I replace headcount and get cost and all those things in order, but more about how do I hire the right talent that can help me understand, like, for example, I've got a financial process that takes a week to do. How do I use agentic to reduce that to a day or 2 days, whatever? But what do I need to enable my people to do to identify that as a problem, get end-to-end visibility of that, build out this agent, deploy this agent, track the value of this agent, report the value of this agent, right? So it's more about like, how do I build up that center of excellence ecosystem and construct within my capability center, because that's where you have the biggest access to new skills, to enable this for my business overall, right? So I would look at it more as an opportunity for us, and less as a worry that AI is taking our jobs. More that, let's bring in the value of how do I build up this skill pool and capability pool to drive adoption of these sorts of things globally.
Right. Wanted to say something?
Just a couple of lines, right? I think if you actually see the average age of any GCC, it is far lesser than any other unit that is sitting in the organization, right? So that is point number one. And even from the, having a very young age group sitting in an organization which has visibility across the organization helps you to easily jump onto a problem and solve for it. So it is also an opportunity that GCCs actually can leverage, because the younger, the Gen AI natives are there, and you basically, for you to actually pick up that skill set and start jumping onto the problem is an opportunity as well.
Sure. Ashish, coming over to you, since you're from the HR and you're hiring and recruiting people. So how would you kind of like to go about? What are your experiences, and how would you like to take it to the next level?
See, honestly, this is my 11th IIM and 61st college in this year. So when I go back and talk to students, and specifically this batch is special because they actually know the crux of the business. At least they have seen some world and they're not coming. There are two aspects, Darius. One is from an organization point of view, what is the EVP which we are building? Because if as a HR leader, as a global practice where we have different cultures working, different people, sometimes people like to join freshers. Oh, I have a US reporting, and they get fascinated about it. And that US reporting they have never seen. They just copy them in CC. But that feel good factor is there, that I'm reporting to somebody in US. Sometimes we get candidates who come back and say, what is in learning with us? When we look at the career planning graph in India now, it has evolved into 4 stages. And this we have done out of a survey. Is one is your skill based learning, where you are flowing through a skill. If you have some skill, you will find some way out of it. Second is your capability, or you can do something. Third is your entrepreneurship. If you are an entrepreneur, you can open up your own business. Fourth is freelance. When we hire people in our organization or for any other organizations which I have worked, or maybe I, kind of suggest to my counterparts, I hire them that first thing you hire for people to the role. Because if you have a good role of learning exposure, then our EVP is good. Because I cannot build my EVP on compensation. Today they will ask 10, tomorrow they will ask 20, and tomorrow I have to give my kidney away for 30 as a business, because everything is cost, unfortunately. So now for them, it is important that when you interview with, any HR comes and gives a good pep talk and all these, that we are giving this and that, please do not get kind of floored by the CTC numbers or all these things. Ask what is there with me. Because what we are giving here, the question what we are trying to put to you, because you should also ask. We are enabling and coming and spending our day to make you capable to ask questions, that what I will get out of it after 2 years. What is my career progression? Where I will land up? What is my learning? If you start questioning that how many leaves, then India is, the same question will be there, which Arun also asked, that where is India? We have to ask relevant questions to the hiring manager. This is one. Build our proposition, anytime from an organization point of view, when I sit my business leaders and board, I always tell them that let us build some basic culture values, which is not compensation. Because as a startup, we have limited resources, we have limited bandwidth. So we build on 3 things. One is your learning, what you are learning in the organization, and we are very specific about in a framework. Second is work-life balance, because we are dealing with Gen Zs and Alpha Zs and all, and they have their own kind of things, and we want to respect that. The third is very important, is respect. Respect. You come with hunger of knowledge and respect everywhere you go, and we want to respect that as organizations. And that is what you need to ask relevant questions, because if you don't ask, then there will be not good people like us, but there are smarter people like us will make fool of you. So ask relevant questions.
So anybody wants to ask any questions to Ashish? Right. Professor?
Yeah, so maybe we can change track a little bit to a domain that personally is of interest to me, which is how can we sort of create an enabling infrastructure And I mean that in different ways, physical, but also like governance, policy, infrastructure. And I'm thinking here from, if you're Bangalore, you already have a critical mass, right? You know that there are very clear advantages why you want to set up there, or Hyderabad perhaps. But if I'm a Kolkata, then what kinds of things do I want to create? Do I want to generate that we can bring in
Right.
GCCs and more GCCs here?
This was one of the pointers that we had thrown to the group which has done the research. Is what are you going to do about Calcutta? Why is it not?
No, also, so how many of you are from Kolkata? Anyone? So we have a few, right? So there is a stake in the city here. Clearly, I mean, the others may leave after this year, but we are going to be around. And so we want the city also to be thriving. I mean, and a hub for these.
We have two natives who can start with Rajesh.
Okay, I think so. There are. I think
Just to interrupt you, I'm saying Kolkata, but it could very well be Jaipur.
So I think there are a few things. I think you already mentioned about it. Is Karnataka is the first city in India which came up with a GCC policy. And I'll just take maybe a few dimensions of it. I mean, what they want from government, like someone is trying to set up a GCC in India. First thing is obviously infrastructure. Second is that in whatever areas they are, depending on the company, in whatever areas they operate, what kind of skills they need, and that can be very dependent, very much different for a BFSI company and fintech company, or there is a mobile banking company for which we are doing some evaluation, fintech company, and the kind of skills they are looking for is such a niche skill that becomes sometimes a challenge. So that is second thing, is that some type of skill building. Third thing is that how friendly the policies are. There are different modes in which GCCs operate, as you know, is it SEZ or STPI, etc. Now that is the third thing. And fourth thing, to certain extent, I am saying sometimes there's a challenge also on that front, is that this entire dimension of, I'm not sure how much of others had experienced probably, and because I had experienced it recently, is that how much friendly your policies in terms of taxes and all. Just I'll try to give an example. Like all of us told about, GCC should do value adding work. They should take up more R&D and all. But one of the challenges which I typically seen, the tax structure, the way it has been set up, and to a certain extent, you can tell the tax authorities are also right. It's typically a cost plus percentage structure. That's why they traditionally had paid tax. Now what happened is, now today, probably the company is doing much more than that. They're doing the actual product development almost. I'm just giving you an example. Say SAP Labs, it's a product development center. It's not exactly a GCC, but just to tell the way it is taxed also is that it is still taxed in cost plus model, and there the government has a problem, because if the product is entirely created out of this country, so the whatever revenue that generated, whatever profit that generated, should not be a percentage of that considered to be a tax. That is one. Second problem, what happens, and again I had seen that, is that many of these companies are, the parent company's subsidiary in India, and whatever services we are doing, we are telling that is an export of service. Now, and that's why you are not paying any tax. I'm just telling this is not no right or wrong answer, but I'm just trying to tell this is some of the challenges which probably the government also need to address. But the question comes from the tax authority typically is that if you're a part of the same company and if you're supplying to your own counterpart, then is it really an export? Is it really you should pay at the GST rate of 18%? You are totally avoiding it, and should you pay that? So I think in that part, I mean, as a country as a whole, it's not just West Bengal. I'm telling, we need some clarity, because a lot of GCCs are facing this problem of transfer pricing, double taxation, etc. And there are logics if you think from government also, because I think the entire regulatory structure has been built thinking it is a cost plus model which was built in 90s, but that is quite different the kind of work what GCCs are doing today. So that is one part, I think, where I think there is a clear cut government definition of policies, etc. and need clarity. That is one. Second thing is that as a Calcutta specific, if you ask me in West Bengal, first thing is that we need a policy. We don't have a GCC policy. So typically, I had not having experience of some companies are trying to set up GCC and doing evaluation for that. But what I hear from many people is that it's quite the long process to get all the procedures and clearances, etc. And if you also look at the sheer number of ACJs or STPI which has been set up in many states, it's not there in West Bengal. And third thing is that if you look at, still Bangalore is the biggest center. If you look at the latest IIS policy of Karnataka government, it tries to promote centers also beyond Bangalore. So it's Mysore, Bangalore, they're also trying to take up. In Maharashtra, it's the biggest center is now Pune. So that is also along with Calcutta. Are you also thinking about other centers in West Bengal? Because still whatever schedule done, a good percentage of GCC is still playing on cost. And there probably if you have a center in another center in West Bengal, that can be more cost effective than Calcutta. So that those are I think some of the questions. So I think we'll take tax and regulatory things. Second thing is obviously, as I told, that infrastructure and in West Bengal, I think infrastructure is gradually picking up. At least there are some airports also coming up beyond Calcutta as well. Third is the government's policy. I think the most important is probably that, setting up a GCC policy, which I think UP has it, Karnataka has it, Maharashtra has it. Most of the 3-4 at least important states already have. Delhi NCR recently, there's a part of UP and Delhi NCR, they had set up a policy. That need to be there, And last is that if you look at some of the skills, as I had seen, like cybersecurity, if it come to fintech skills, skill is also quite rare. It's probably very few institutes. Like recently, as I was just giving the example of a mobile banking, fintech company which was trying to set up, they were looking for skills which is quite unique actually. They're having these large language models which they build for algorithms which they build, and on that they will run agentic AI, and that that will try to figure out that how this LLM models can be modified. And there they were looking for skills, and hardly they could find something. In Bangalore itself, they could find something actually. So that as we are trying to get into more higher kind of work, that will also need very different kind of skill. Like one of the companies recently we were working on, they wanted to do a process improvement of one of the process which they were trying to set up. And they're looking for process mining skill, the skills in Celonis and some of the products which does process mining. And hardly we could find that. So I think these are the few things. One is, first thing I will tell, definitely policy. Second is clarity about taxes and how it will be handled. Third is skills, because the mass skills are there, but whenever it comes to specialized skills, even Bangalore has a problem. I'm sure Calcutta will have a bigger problem. And fourth is, in general, I can always tell that we have a problem little bit about image problem as well probably. First thing which someone sets up a GCC will probably the first 4 or 5 names which come in mind for any multinational. It's not Calcutta yet. So that's I think is a image problem which doesn't get changed quickly, but hopefully over the time the government had to do something really strong to make that image change. I mean, this countries, some companies are looking at GCCs at Vietnam and Indonesia. So even those countries coming somewhere in the rank. But I don't see that happens very, very commonly for companies who think about setting up GCCs. Okay, let me just try to look at shortlist 5 centers where you can first do an evaluation. Probably Calcutta will not figure in that list yet.
So that's also an Sandeep, would you kind of, since you all consult and bring in companies?
3 quick points. Yeah. So first one around the policies, right? So yeah, Karnataka started it, but as of today, as we speak, there are 9 states which have a very explicit GCC policy to speak. This year in the budget, central government, obviously talked about in the previous budget as well about what are the exemptions for GCCs. And this year there was a special focus on tier 2, tier 3. So that's a word that I have some reservations around. We should be having more Bangalores and Hyderabad, and therefore I'll call them as emerging tier 1s, if you will, right? So there are policies in place, both in terms of physical infrastructure, digital infrastructure, and then more states should get into that bandwagon, and for the right reason. So we need we need more Calcuttas and more Jaipurs and more, right? And there is a lot of work happening. There are centers emerging like Coimbatore, Vizag, Chandigarh, and Jaipur, Ahmedabad, all included. So there's work going on there. Equally, this industry has to reciprocate to take the incentives and move in there. So see, I always say that India's got talent, and I'm not talking about the TV show, but India's got talent. But the GCCs come here for the talent, but stay for the ecosystem, and that's where I think the answer lies, right? So it's not about moving the talent from one place to the other. If I was to go into a location, I'm looking for the whole 9 yards, right? So a bank coming in would like to see other banks being there, their peers. I like to see the service providers that are giving me services in the US being here. I need the ecosystem of the startups that can innovate for me being there. I am Calcutta, that's where my cradle of the next growth is going to be. So, those academies along with the government, right? So, like I said, they come here for talent, but they stay here for the ecosystem. So when we're talking about newer cities, it's not about just incentivizing a company for an X amount of exemptions on tax, but really build that ecosystem. And that's where I think that's a tall order problem. And that's not been cracked so far, but a lot of attempts being made. And lastly, I think why is not being cracked is it's not an India problem, right? I would say if you see patterns in the US or elsewhere in the world, it's an urban mobility problem. Right? I think the problem that you are passionate solving about, right? So if I'm a software engineer, I get paid 50 rupees in Jaipur and 100 rupees in Bangalore, and maybe 1,000 rupees in New York. Why would not take that route? Think about Europe, right? Europe has a open border system, and I was trying to set up a GCC in Romania, thinking that I'll get French-speaking resources there, only to find out that there are few, because the cream has really left to the cities like Paris and London. Same in India, so it's not a unique problem, and that's where it needs to. I mean, it is something that the world is grappling with around urban mobility to define it that way, right? So.
I think I'll just change this, right? First of all, Bangalore is not the GCC capital anymore. Bangalore is losing faster than any other city. Reason is actually they were the first to start a GCC policy, but they are the worst supporting government, and I live in Bangalore. And I can see this deteriorating actually, because the government is absolutely doing nothing to promote GCCs, barring the fact that but we're trying to we're building District I as answer in next to the airport to see if we can. Everybody's announcing things because they're interested in land probably. But if I were to take an example of why is every second GCC coming to Hyderabad, is an interesting conversation. Infrastructure, if you stand on one of the flyovers and look through, you will not differentiate whether it is Dallas suburbs or India. I think Hyderabad has done phenomenally good for the infrastructure. Second is, today the principal secretary will say, Sandeep, I'll come to your hotel to meet your guys to sell the city. You don't have to bring them to my secretariat. That's government push. KTR and today the new Sridhar Babu has also done the same. I've traveled with him to New York for GCC roundtables. He will say, can I get a CIO in your list who's from Andhra or Telangana, and can I write to them? And we wrote to them actually. Now that's hunger, right? The policies don't do anything. But one thing is because there's no tax ops at all. SEZ is long gone. Desh has been announced by Nirmala Sitharaman in 2022. It has not seen the light of the day. And even if I were to government says that I will set up a policy, it doesn't mean anything. Why? Because you're not doing anything to set up unless and until you have a Telangana government which is doing a T-Hub, which is doing a T-SIC to do skill development. My take is, if you want to promote GCCs, it's directly proportionate to the talent availability. It's got nothing else to do. Today I'm setting up, Monday I was there in Kochi, 2 days of hiring drive. We got 16 offers at 20% lower price point, and the retention rates are much higher. I feel that any new city you want to develop, if it is Kolkata, go back to your roots. ERP skills were available, SAP skills were available. If there is a good company which has got 50 people requirement, push, sell Kolkata. Government will not come and save this. You know, it is for us. And today the Kerala government is very interested, or there is Yogi ji is very interested to bring people to Noida. I think the only thing the government should do is to have a dialogue and probably improve the infrastructure. Other than that, I think it is purely an equation of talent availability. Nobody wants to come. Vizag, we've acquired land, but everybody is saying, is there a bar there? Is there an infrastructure there? And that's what talent wants. So,
Ashish, you want to say something?
I have no power. Yeah. Hello. I have no power to talk about any political or public policy. I am a humble employee, which I get enlightened on 30th or 1st of every month. So I don't have all those thoughts. I look at it from a point that as a proud hybrid Bengali, what I am contributing, and I completely agree with Sandeep ji that, what I am contributing, I'm more concerned about that. আমি তো ভালোবাসি কি করে ভালোবাসি 4 লাইন बोल देता हूँ आप लोग के लिए कि ढूंढेंगे तो कोई मिल ही जाएगा, पर मेरी तरह तुम्हें कौन चाहेगा? चाहतों से भरी देखेंगे कई लोग, बट वो नजर हमारी तरह कहां से लाएगा? So my contribution, I moved out of Calcutta in 2011. I am settled in Mumbai and Pune. I visit every time when I get an opportunity. What I have done in my career is without biasness. I believe that if you hire not only from Kolkata, but West Bengal, but Odisha and Bihar and Jharkhand, that belt, I have seen in my career that you get two things. One is definitely a stickiness because attritions are less, because Bhatgum is also important. Okay. Second is reliability. That if you get the opportunities here, people will stick around with it. They're not job hoppers. And that is a normal tendency. It is not mistaken that we are not job aspirants, but we are loyal people. And if you hire us, we will stick around. This is where. So what as an HR head I do? Wherever I work, I come down and hire. Because I cannot go and build GCCs. I don't have that capability. I cannot influence people. And every time when we do the manpower planning in the organization, you have to have a yardstick of hiring from all. We are not going to be biased that if I am from this region, I will hire, but that's a wrong talent mapping. But yes, we are not doing reservations also. But in my kind of 16 years of my people experience, I've seen if you hire people, specifically 3 cities, and this is there. One is Coimbatore, which I have been very happy to hire. Second is definitely Kolkata, and third is Bhubaneswar. If you hire from here, I have not seen any attrition, zero attrition in these 3 cities if I've hired. So I will go back and put data points in front of the business leaders that we should go back and hire. Because that is what I do. And you all are, it's very easy to come and criticize everybody, Didi, Dada, everybody. What will I do? Will I change anything? No. It will have a cup of sip and we go away. That's how we are known, that they only discuss and they'll go away. If you get this opportunity in your life, anytime after passing out, to building entrepreneur, do this and lead that example. It cannot be 100 people hire, 2 people hire, but at least make that start. Criticism is very important. Sitting and it's not working. I have done that. I have not done in, I have not made any significant impact, that is, but I'm doing in whatever way I can. And wherever it is possible, I do that. So, yeah.
Any questions from? Any questions? Yeah, see a lot of hands. Yes, very passionate hands. Come on. How are we doing on time? 30 minutes. Yeah. So we have 35 minutes. So yeah.
Adding that because we are going.
Yes, yes.
Sir, this is regarding the point you said about setting up GCCs in Kolkata, right? So One thing what I've seen historically about Kolkata is that when you look at companies such as RPG Group or ITC, there is a very different way businesses have operated in Kolkata. It's like more traditional businesses which have say more national level focus, right? What I'm trying to infer over here is that rather than force fitting GCCs into Kolkata, we look at Kolkata from a very different lens of building different type of businesses here and focus on cities such as say Kolkata, Vizag, Coimbatore, Lucknow, and Noida, which I personally feel can be the next growth drivers for GCC in this entire setup. So I just wanted to ask the panel that are these 5 cities having the potential to take India forward to the next leg, especially in the GCC journey?
Which cities did you say? Noida,
Cochin,
Kochi?
Coimbatore, Vizag, Noida, Lucknow.
Okay. I don't know about Lucknow but I'll comment on the 4. Okay. Um, Vizag today, most of the guys work in Hyderabad because there's no, and the 2 companies which went, they struggled really because HSBC went there. Because Chandrababu Naidu was very driven. But then when Jagan Mohan came, it went because he moved from Vizag to Amravati, which is why Vizag. But I feel that if in all the cities, watch out for Vizag because of the investments. Not that Lokesh Nara was there in our office in 4 weeks back. 4 weeks back, we had an industry roundtable. He gave us 10 acres of land in 99 paise, and he's given that land to some 50-20 of the companies to set up. There is a quantum lab being set up by IBM. There is AWS being investing. G42, I'm not sure if you follow Manu Jain, CEO of Xiaomi. He's building a huge data infrastructure in Vizag. So watch out for Vizag. I'm sure that city is going to see amazing growth. Second is Coimbatore is always good. I'll completely agree with Ashish. Low attrition, good talent, good English speaking, better speaking talent than Hyderabad actually. Just that the problem is the access to Coimbatore because it doesn't have an international airport. So please understand that when you look at GCCs, people want 2 flights, not 3. Today, Pune takes a hit also because of accessibility, because you still have to come to Bombay. There's only one Indigo flight, and nobody wants to travel non-business. So these are practical issues of what Pune is struggling with, right? Coming back to Kochi, Kochi has got brilliant access to international connectivity. Great talent. Kochi is also right in the middle of Kerala. If you go to Trivandrum, you'll find talent which is not that great. But when you go to Kochi, it's got social infrastructure, it's got access, it's got good English speaking. So, and there are a lot of these EY, Deloitte, Infosys, UST, they set up some great infrastructure. So that's why I feel Kochi I'm very positive about. Noida, yes, because everybody is tired of the real estate prices in Gurgaon and the water logging. I feel that Noida and Yogi ji is doing a great job of infrastructure, is very welcoming. The only challenge is that NCR has always been a back office hub rather than a technology hub. So the promotion needs to be more about technology than back office. If that happens, I feel Noida will be good. After the airport coming up, I feel that it should see even better progress. So I would say, barring Lucknow, I feel all of these cities, and that's where Accenture is investing, or most of the guys are now looking at tier 2 cities, and I think all these 4 cities will see tremendous growth.
You didn't comment about Calcutta.
I wish I wish some I come from IBM, and most of the IBM guys are ex-PwC, and most of them were all the Chatterjees and Banerjees from here. But unfortunately, it is lacked that push. But I feel that Odisha, Kolkata has got a great talent hub. It's just a matter of somebody becoming the voice for them and pushing the new GCCs across.
So I think, please feel free to ask questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, am I audible? Yeah. Firstly, thank you to all of you for coming. It's an honor for all of us listening to you all. I'm Saikat and I'm coming from the IT industry myself. So as GCCs are growing, I have a very relevant question. In these GCCs, mainly the operations are driven now for all these larger MNCs or their parent organizations. Now, previously, these operations were handled by the IT majors. So my question is specifically to Sumreni ma'am, and any of you can answer this question. If this GCC handles all these operations now for the tech development or anything, how does IT industry, specifically in industry, navigate this change? Since their operations are going away to the GCCs, so how do they stay relevant in the industry and how do they survive?
Sure. So I think great question. Thank you. So for one, it had started off where a lot of operations, because that was the easiest thing to hand off, right? Like I said, when we build business cases, the driver is, this is work that is commodity, repeatable, does not need access to the business. Let's shift it. It's not working. One, because it's, and this I'm talking like 10, 12, 15 years ago, when coming back to the evolution of this space, right? That's how it used to be. Lots of attrition, a lot of clients coming back to us saying, please, can you take over this entire operation, right? So as part of our experience and thought leadership and advisory that we give our clients, we actually say, don't touch operations. If you want to improve your operations, consolidate your vendors, reduce cost, bring them into lower cost locations, but let them be with your vendors, right? Because the expectation and the type of work is very different. You can't expect a full-time employee in, say, Novartis or Sanofi or Adidas or whatever to work 24 hours. Like, service industry is set up in a certain way with shifts, pay structure is like that, SLA commitments are given. There's a reason it's been a thriving industry for us, right? So the understanding for newer GCCs, and coming back to our model that I was talking about on the doer, thinker, influencer, and reinventor, for the newer GCCs that are coming in, who want to set up as the influencers and reinventors, we actually carve out the operations piece. So anything that says support, maintenance, infrastructure support, AMS, password resets, all those things, either automate it or keep it with the consolidated partner that you trust. Everything else is fair game for you. So all of your things around development, product creation, software engineering, security, setting up new capability, AI, those sorts of things, that's where you start to see real value when you're hiring, because that's where you're building capability, right? So for a lot of our clients, when we start talking to them about it, their driver continues to be cost, but what they want is more control, because they don't like a black box vendor. And second is bringing back IP, right? They don't like the idea of, like, one of the pharmaceutical clients I worked with had told us, everything that we build belongs to our partners. We don't know how to do it. We have project managers who are full-time employees with us, and that's a very risky place for our business to be. Like, imagine R&D for a pharmaceutical company where all the IP has been built by an Accenture, as an example, right? That's a very risky proposition. So the model has shifted where they want to get those people or that knowledge back in, but the support function should remain. So to your question of how has it impacted our industry, it has impacted it 100%, because you need to invest the time, and the client needs to be open to spend that time with you on this education, right? Because for them, it's the rapid, how fast can I get 300 people on my payroll, right? But if you have the time to talk to them and educate them and say, look, you can get the 300, but if those 300 are doing support, you're going to give those 300 back to us, right? And using another example, I spent 3 years working with a German insurance company, setting up a shared service center in Kochi with thousands of people. In the third year, they came back to us and said, please build a business case for Accenture to buy this shared service company, and we just did. So I think it's one of those things where it's impacting the business because companies want to move really fast on it. But where we've been able to make an actual value added impact is the advisory, the education, and then helping them build capability that matters to their business, and helping them understand that keep your operational things streamlined, keep it low cost, keep it with your partners. Right. So, and then I think another is also building a new business model, like your whole build, operate, transfer concept, which is essentially using the scale of recruitment that a company like Accenture has. We hire 10,000 people a day or I've heard some random number like that. Don't quote me on it. But, we have 700,000 people in India. So we have the capability to hire. So a lot of companies rely on us. And then we have our partners as well, right? So between all of that, it's more about building that model of how do you operate. So bring in the people, train them, to Sandeep's point as well, right? Like it's not the lift and shift, it's the nurturing, the transformation, and then shift, which is where is a very big business model for us that's coming up as well.
So if I may add, so see, I think that your question is stemming from a fact that if I'm a CIO, right, how do I choose to set up a GCC versus use an Accenture or a Wipro or TCS, and so I think we are at a tipping point at this point of time on which route we do take, and then what we advocate from our side is a concept of best sourcing, which means that when you do outsourcing to a service provider versus in-source and take work in GCC, and a couple of different criteria around that, right? One is around capacity versus capability, right? So if you need an extra capacity of the work that you already have, but we need another, let's say 100 people, and for a short time, year, couple of years, that's one criteria that you can follow, and not in-source but outsource. The other thing is between buy and build, right? So if there's a platform that is available with our service provider, on, let's say, without naming names, if I'm a bank, there are providers that have a very, very solid banking platform, right? And therefore, I will take ages to build that if I am a GCC, and therefore, why don't I buy that platform and the workforce that comes with that, right? So these are a couple of criteria that I, as a decision maker, would take, choosing between, let's say a service provider or in-source that to GCC.
Questions?
Yeah, sure. I have a question that kind of extends to what my friend Saikat just asked. Right now, we are looking at the impact of AI, especially on the IT as well as the GCCs. So in the IT industry, we have seen that with the advent of AI, the headcount has decreased. TCS was one of the companies that recently decreased their headcounts. They had a lot of people leaving the organization. So what has been the impact of AI on GCCs, particularly on like the work side as well as the employability side, and what are the skills that GCCs are right now looking, particularly related to AI and implementation of AI?
If I can just start, and probably everybody can chime in, is it started to see an impact. You can see Wells Fargo in Chennai, Salesforce, like I said. There are two places where AI is there. One is efficiency of a developer, which means that today, if I have a pod of 10, can I have a pod of 6 or 7? Previously, we used to have QA and developers separately. Now we have something called as SDETs, which is software development,
engineering, testing,
right? So what has happened is that there is a efficiency gain on the tech teams. And to be honest with you, along with best sourcing, which Arvind spoke about, there is right sizing which is happening, because we had a lot of bum on the seat approach in large banks, blinded way of insourcing, or you 1:1, 1:2. I think that what's happening today is happening right sourcing with agentic AI and efficiency levels. Second is you'll see a lot of back office functions wiping out. Like say, for example, I'll tell you a use case which we're doing in one of the large retail companies. There is an email which needs to be processed and sent to stores the next day morning. There was a team of 26 people who are doing it. Today, there's one agent who's doing that. So fundamentally, you'll see a lot of customer support, shared services, finance ops, AP, AR roles getting impacted slowly. Okay. The last level is not yet there, is because of the complexity of data, is impact of AI specifically impacting customer journeys, which you'll probably see you're seeing 2 years or 3 years down the line. So I feel that all of these GCCs will right size, but the new GCCs will absorb this talent. So you will probably see demand supply equality coming in instead of the inequality we see in Bangalore and Hyderabad. That's my sense of where GCCs and AI are playing right now.
And I can add to that. I think so. Two things, right? I think one, Sandeep is absolutely right that there's a lot of right sizing going on. Some of that is driven by agentic and all these things coming in. But I think some of it is also that global companies were bloated to begin with. So a lot of what we see globally is that you have, like taking IT as an example, huge IT organizations, because, labor laws in that country don't really allow easy movement of people and those sorts of things, internal politics, legacy baggage, legacy systems that are dependent on individuals to run them, right? So there's this whole inflated kind of team sizes that you see globally. So a lot of companies are using the setup of the India entities as a way to streamline that, right size that, right? So that's one aspect of it. I also think that AI and all of these, technologies are sort of where automation was maybe a year or 2 years ago, where we were looking at what's the automation platform, the automation hubs you build to make these processes run faster, have less dependency on people. So one of the pharmaceutical companies that we worked with to set up this 3,000 person center in Hyderabad, their driver was how much of my business process can I automate so that I can actually get the right size of my team. Now, on top of that, we are building agents and AI and all of that. So there will be an impact, 100%, but I don't think AI is driving that impact on its own. Second, to the question, I think the second part of your question was on the skills, right? It's wonderful to be able to say that I will stick an agent onto this process and fix it. If you stick an agent onto a broken process, you'll get a broken answer, right? Just last week, I was sitting with the CIO of an Alcobev company who's just set up a GCC in India, and they are having this problem. She said, how do I go to my procurement lead and say, your process is so broken, there's nothing my team can do globally in India and wherever to make an agent that's going to fix this process. We need to fix the process, right? So I think the people and the skills and the capability and the fact that the India center is going to be your greenfield new center that can drive change are people who can bring that consolidated view, bring that where are those change points, influence those change points, and then obviously also have a lot of the technology understanding to be able to set up those agents, even fix data. Like, how do you build an agent when it's running on data that's completely not clean data, right? It won't work. So even I think we like to think that we are very advanced in AI, but the reality is we are at base level data cleansing, data modeling, which will never go away, or rather we have a ways to go before. So a lot of that will happen in parallel. So while we're seeing things change from a sizing perspective, I think from a skills perspective, data, AI, understanding of agentic, modeling, all of those things are skills which we'll have to learn in parallel.
Yeah, I think we also maybe can wrap in 10 minutes or so, right?
Okay,
So
right.
please do think of your question. But I had one, we'll come to you maybe after that. So if we move, so taking a bird's eye view, right, zooming out a little bit and thinking beyond sectors or particular companies and so on. One of the things that since the 90s or 2000s that has been of interest to states, countries, governments globally is to reposition your country in the innovation sort of space of the world, right? Where are the new products being developed? Where is the cutting edge thinking going on, right? And we are used to like our graduates, IIT graduates moving elsewhere and doing that sort of work there, and then sort of the back end work and other kinds of things happening here. So now if we zoom out and see the kinds of things GCCs are doing, not only in India, but also you mentioned Poland and Vietnam, etc. Do you see Poland, Vietnam, India sort of change in, or rather the relative place of Poland, India, Vietnam shift in terms of where we are with respect to the traditional sort of centers of innovation? Maybe you can speak from a farmer perspective because that is relevant. Is it still MIT? Is it still like certain spaces that we're used to in terms of leading the innovation, or is that changing?
See, to be frank, I think if you're asking any of these pharma GCCs, are they actually developing new drugs? We are not, right? It's definitely a serious business in terms of identifying the right molecule and then building a drug, and there is a lot of research that goes into it. Where where practically there are some influences that are happening is basically use of AI and ML to identify the target molecule and helping fast track some of these researches, or scan through the millions of research that is happening and then connect the dots and figure out what are the other possibilities that are happening, right? But still the real drug development happens in those hubs. Are we far away from getting some of these? I think we have those investments also happening in some of these countries, so it's not that we're away from it. And it also has a different level of skill set and talent that is actually required. I would say probably technology, you might actually be in a position to actually comment, but the point is what Smrin mentioned, the product owner kind of roles are actually coming here. You see that the global CEO is actually visiting GCC almost every year or every alternate year, which brings to a point that they see the relevance of the strategic importance and not just looking at it as a cost center. And the visibility of leader means that there is also certain specific kind of work that is happening in these spaces. So to me, it's still in a phase where we are still finding our foot and finding what real value that this ecosystem can actually deliver. But then we are still plugged on many different parts of the core, what do you call, product development pieces, but I don't think we are there yet.
I'll just add one is the number of patents, because innovation is also very loosely, we call automation also innovation, but the number of patents coming out, there are some GCCs which are far more mature. They measure, they incentivize, they promote IP development. Some industries are better than the rest. Like say, for example, if I take pharma life sciences, there's faster drug discovery than drug discovery themselves. But fintech probably is far more mature, because one example we are trying to do, and we have not done a good job of our selling innovation as well. So what we did was, again, I'll take Alchemy's example. We took the CTO to IIT Delhi. We are working with two professors now on two use cases on fraud detection using social media mesh, and because the professors were very excited about that project. And all of these universities are very well funded actually. So they were not looking at funding, but they were looking at good quality work. And if those 8 students or 10 students who are working on that particular project, they wouldn't want to go to the US to kind of, if the work is residing in the GCC. So I feel that to a large extent, we've not done a good job of in comparison to Vietnam or Krakow, we're far ahead. I don't think so. Krakow has always been a back office HR function. Vietnam is just picking up in QA and some Salesforce developers or something like that. But we've not seen South America is purely because of time zone access. India's maturity is not there anywhere in comparison to US or even Europe. But at least from the hotspots of outsourcing cities, I think we're far better than the rest.
What's the diversity of MBA PGPX in terms of male, female?
It's quite
Out of?
poor. 89.
So where's the voice? Come on. One last few questions before we wrap up.
There was, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. Sorry. I am Srijita, an alumni of this program from 3 batches ago, and for the last 1 year or so working in Sumrini's team. So most of what I hear resonates very well with me. One quick question. So when we drive these conversations, I think especially for tech GCCs, innovation, and while we were on the topic, is a cornerstone of it. But when it comes to operationalization, it is mostly very ways of working dependent, and if I'm more dependent on it being driven bottom up instead of top down. And I think it's only probably 6 months, 8 months into the engagement they listen to us, and we finally start bringing in the AI strategy top down. So question here is, do you see such similar trends, be it like this or something else, while setting up GCCs? Maybe sir, you could help answer this.
If I just get the question right, you're saying that the initial conversation starts with cost, and then how do we change that discussion? I'm not very clear of the question.
No,
Sorry about
so
that.
cost is probably has become like we cannot talk about cost. Cost is there, but it's like an elephant in the room. We do not address that upfront. We talk about innovation, we talk about talent scaling, and all of that happens. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. But when we look at the operational side of things, innovation is left to be driven more bottom up, especially from the GCC perspective, more ways of working driven instead of being AI strategy being driven up top. So my question was, again, I have very limited exposure over this 1 year, but if you see similar trends or some other trends that you see being a challenge while setting up GCCs in India.
No, I mean, so see, the cost narrative will play as a given. Everybody starts with that, and you can't sort of do away with that for sure. Right now, how do we change the conversation on innovation? In fact, as we speak, I'm working with a GCC which is starting right now in very, very early stages. And we're talking about setting up an AI center of excellence, which otherwise would have been a year 2, year 3, year 4 conversation, right? And like you said, we would have done, bottom up, and the conversation would have been, once we've matured, we do it, right? But AI does provide you, like I was saying in the beginning, a level playing field of what GCCs can do vis-a-vis what's happening in the headquarters, right? So in this particular instance, the GCC is driving the narrative on what can we do on the AI side, both on productivity efficiency improvement for the organization, as well as building new use cases which can add to the top line of the. So that's happening, right? But while that not be, very frankly speaking, may not be the norm, maybe an exception, and that's where we need to drive towards that, right? So I think if you take an example of ChatGPT, right? If all of us use ChatGPT, if you're just using that for writing emails, we're not doing the justice to that. And then that's the analogy I make to the GCCs. If you're using that GCCs only for cost optimization and not for innovation, then we're losing that purpose, right? So GCCs do lend themselves to setting up, let's say, an AI center of excellence, just that the narrative doesn't come up, and rightly so, that discussion should start right away. Why not?
Any questions? Yeah, more? Last few questions, yeah. Yeah.
Can I just
Just to add a different perspective, right? I think we can't forget why the job actually came to a location like India, right? Cost is an important one. But at the same time, it is about how do we actually manage the cost. Say, for example, whenever we get asked a question in terms of cost competitiveness or being cost efficient, the question we should ask is what is the most, or what is the the portfolio of work that I need to do within this particular budget, rather than thinking about driving the cost down. I think that's a different mindset, and that requires a bit of both. And that's where I think ways of working also plays a part, because ways of working, see, we feel that it is something that is given, but unless and until there is enough clarity and there is functional alignment and there is enough discussion, say for example, somebody sitting in a GCC sits in a pod working on a product launch, taking decisions on a day-to-day basis alongside the other stakeholders, and that clarity is not there for this particular member, he can't drive innovation. And that ways of working is as much as important, and there is co-ownership of impact. So I think we can't forget, because a lot of times what we feel is, when people talk about cost, we can't forget that the first reason why the job came to us, it was cost. But at the same time, how do we prioritize and put my budget onto the most important work that will benefit my enterprise?
I mean, I know there are some questions still, but we have been told we have to sort of wrap up the session today. Perhaps what we can do is people can sort of mingle a little bit after we are done formally, and speak to our panelists. So anyway, so we'll end here. My thanks so much to all our panelists once more, to my co-moderator, also to the MBA-Ex program, the students, and the office. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. So I think, Thanks for the loud applause, and I hope it was of use to you all. And I'm sure, I mean, I didn't know the G of GCC. And, I think I'm going out with very rich insights out of this conversation, and I'm sure, you would have benefited this also from many perspectives, career included, actually. And, we wish you all the very best. If all of you all want to kind of have some closing remarks or statements here.
With that, the Industry Insight Series GCC Summit has come to an end. To the audience, a very heartfelt thank you for actually making your effort in providing thoughtful questions. And to the members of panel, thank you so much for addressing them. We've clearly understood one thing for sure: GCC is not the unit economics or just an industry. It is the very ecosystem, the KTRs or the airports that contribute, the DLFs that accommodate. This panel's insight on how to work for the KPIs of the GCC clients, and that it is not just the requirement delivery, it is owning the input and the output potential. To each one of the panel contributing to this very ecosystem, thank you for sharing your experience and insights. We, as the future GCC economy contributors, are more than just thankful for your insights.
I'll now invite my batchmates on stage to give the token of appreciation to our guest. Akshay Kusumkar, kindly come forward and present a memento to Mr. Arvind. Thank you, Akshay. Amar Kovil, please come forward and present a memento to Mr. Ashish. Thanks, Amar. I request Shai Abhishek to kindly come forward and present a memento to Mr. Jayachandran. Thank you, Sai. Rajat Gupta, please come forward and present a memento to Mr. Rajesh. Thank you, Rajat. Shrikant, please come forward and present a memento to Mr. Sandeep. Thank you. I request Amravi to please come forward and present a memento to Ms. Sumreni. Thank you, Amravi. Saikat, please come forward and present a memento to Mr. Darius. Thank you, Saikat. And Shashank Sinha, please come forward and present a memento to Professor Rohit. Thank you, Shashank. So this idea of GCC Summit, it started with our chairperson's push from reading an article by EY on GCC's growth in India. So Professor Pragyanat has always been a show starter, and this.
No. This is. Thank you so much. Can you give them a big round of applause? Thank you. I'm going to do there's a live streaming, so I'm trying to advertise while I do a vote of thanks. And what I want is the badge. You know what to do. As I tell you, vote of thanks, clap, just clap. So it's going to be a long list. All right. So first and foremost, the biggest clap goes to, wait, hold on. Let me finish and then you clap. Actually goes to Ranjit from batch 18 for having done a live project with Sir and doing it well enough for him and his organization to think that he should join. And then this time for a live project again to come. And 3 of us from the batch, one sitting there, another sitting Shrikant there. And where's the third one who gave, yeah, there it is. Could we all give a big round of applause to him and to all of us for this? So the GCC didn't start with the chairperson reading an EY article. The GCC started with you. So a big round of applause to him, right? Next, the concept of GCC, I heard a lot. This is where alumni interaction helps. Let's give a big round of applause to Srijita from batch 16. And thereby we get to ma'am. And there's a huge clan of MBA-Ex students who now work in Accenture. So a very, very big round of applause to ma'am, Srijita and GCC, right? Thank you. Next, GCC is a part of a number of such panel discussions we've started. This too, the round of applause actually goes to, just hold on, 2 of them. One is Shubhajit Sanchit from batch 18 and the other is Bhargav. We were the first to have space tech. We were the first to have insure tech, and we are the first to actually hold one. We just catch the buzzwords and we start. So it's GCC. It is actually MBA-Ex which is running these panels. So they're a really, really big round of applause. Next in line is, of course, very quickly, Sir, you said, Nam mone ache. He said, apni bhalo bashin. So please একটু বেশি করে ভালোবাসুন, right? আর আপনি বললেন, you go and you hire. Do you see? Please, right? You said you go and hire, the others take their time, but while you take the time, please do hire. A big round of applause to somebody who loves people so much, right? Now, Arvind, I think you need to give this clap to actually somebody who was after me and the office saying that first we should have a keynote speech for you. I said, no, I'm the villain. then you should have a live, streaming so that the whole world watches. I said, no, I'm the villain. But finally, he did persuade. So the batch and the students really dream big. If there's anything not going well with the organization, it's the office. So please give a big round of applause to Arvind, Suman for getting him. And thank you for, yes. Again, very quickly, really a loud clap for Mr. Rajesh here. I don't know if the batch is aware. Innova Global started hiring for us last year. We had the CEO come in for a CEO talk. Not just that, the moment the alumni heard you were coming in, it is Aditya Shukla and Shivam. They just flooded messages saying how big you are internally. We should really know. A really big round of applause to Mr. Rajesh coming. Thank you for taking part. Sir, Novartis, people have lots of dreams in and around Novartis. And we have actually Asai Abhishek in particular. I don't know if that works. I'm just doing my job, right? And essentially there are a small subculture of MBA students in Novartis. So thank you for coming and a big round of applause for him, right? And yes, Darius, there's Mr. Darius here, there's Mr. Pulak here. Mr. Darius and Pulak themselves can sit and talk on any subject in any panel and say, I don't know the G of GCC, but he knows the GCC of everything. And not just that, he's helped really run a lot of LDPs. Mr. Darius here and Mr. Jyotirmoy. There was another program running that side. Actually, there are some 33 programs running. So which faculty is in which room, God only knows. We're just moving around. But Mr. Darius, you made our day. And as usual, VC now has just helped MBA-Ex like anything. Give them a big round of applause. And last but not the least, Professor Rohit Negi, watch out for the elective in term 6 on entrepreneurship, urban space, and you'll have most of these things coming in. He spoke very little because he was being nice and letting a lot of people speak, but he's fascinating, and that elective is a must, and it's the first of its kind in MBA-Ex as well. So big round of applause to them. Not over. Could we now have a really big round of applause to the leadership team? Akshay, come here. Chaitali, come here. And please, Amit, come here. Along with, right, they've really imagined this so well. And along with that, Suman, Raju, please come here. And the missing one, but since the place rep, idhar aiye. Please do come. And you can just turn around. They're the people who really put in effort here. Right? The entire organization, thinking, planning. They like to read nice things about other people, but the people who are really working is actually them. And of course, Suman Raju then did the magic, went to the director, got him in, and the director came with not seeing the chairperson around. I'm on the live streaming, but biggest round of applause to the director. He really pitched you all high, right? And he's very particular about your program. And now, above all and everybody, genuinely, batch 19, stand up and give yourselves a big round of applause. The biggest round that you can, right? And we request the panelists to join and do that for them as well. Thank you so much. And with that, the day is done. Thank you. And what we are, you want to, I hand this mic over to Akshay. Yes, I just want to. All right. There is another emergencies that arrived. In fact, there are a number of things happening. So you were talking about government policies. So the PM and Kolkata, the PM is arriving in Kolkata, which means your flight and your entry into the flight. So I think for those who have to depart at 5 and 7, you have to do it really fast. We'll get you safe and steady, right? Those who are in Kolkata, please stay back because the students really wanted to meet. We'll just meet in L14 for 5 minutes. The team, food is packed so that you don't miss lunch. Everything planned, and you'll be safe and sound in the airport before time. Right? Thank you.
We'll have a photograph and then a photograph with the batch as well. Please. Okay.